Chapter 37. And Zedekiah the son of Joashua reigned as king instead of Coniah the son of Jehoiakim, whom Nebuchadrezzar king of Babylon made king in the land of Judah. But neither he nor his servants nor the people of the land did hearken unto the words of the Lord, which he spoke by the prophet Jeremiah. And Zedekiah the king sent Jehucal the son of Shelemiah, and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah the priest, to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Pray now unto the Lord our God for us. Now Jeremiah came in and went out among the people, for they had not put him into prison. And Pharaoh's army was come forth out of Egypt, and when the Chaldeans that besieged Jerusalem heard tidings of them, they broke up from Jerusalem. Then came the word of the Lord unto the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Thus shalt you say to the king of Judah, that sent you unto me to inquire of me, Behold, Pharaoh's army, which is come forth to help you, shall return to Egypt into their own land, and the Chaldeans shall return and fight against this city, and they shall take it and burn it with fire. Thus saith the Lord, Deceive not yourselves, saying, The Chaldeans shall surely depart from us, for they shall not depart. For though you had smitten the whole army of the Chaldeans that fight against you, and there remained but wounded men among them, yet would they rise up every man in his tent, and burn this city with fire. And it came to pass, that when the army of the Chaldeans was broken up from Jerusalem for fear of Pharaoh's army, then Jeremiah went forth out of Jerusalem to go into the land of Benjamin to receive his portion there in the midst of the people. And when he was in the gate of Benjamin, a captain of the ward was there, whose name was Iriah, the son of Shelemiah, the son of Hananiah, and he laid hold on Jeremiah the prophet, saying, You fallest away to the Chaldeans. Then said Jeremiah, It is false, I fall not away to the Chaldeans. But he hearkened not to him. So Iriah laid hold on Jeremiah, and brought him to the princes. And the princes were wroth with Jeremiah, and smote him, and put him in prison into the house of Jonathan the scribe, for they had made that the prison. And when Jeremiah was come into the dungeon house, and into the cells, and Jeremiah had remained there many days, then Zedekiah the king sent and fetched him. And the king asked him secretly in his house, and said, Is there any word from the Lord? And Jeremiah said, There is. He said also, You shalt be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon. Moreover, Jeremiah said unto King Zedekiah, Wherein I have sinned against you, or against your servants, or against this people, that you have put me in prison? Where now are your prophets that prophesied unto you, saying, The king of Babylon shall not come against you, nor against this land? And now hear, I pray you, O my lord the king, let my supplication, I pray you, be presented before you, that you cause me not to return to the house of Jonathan the scribe, lest I die there. Then Zedekiah the king commanded, and they committed Jeremiah into the court of the guard, and they gave him a daily loaf of bread out of the baker's street, until all the bread of the city was spent. Thus Jeremiah remained in the court of the guard. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. Now yesterday we was in the period of Jehoiakim, and Jehoiakim was prior to Zedekiah, and we was in actually the 4th and 5th years of Jehoiakim was yesterday, or the last chapter. And we had the roll of the book that was being written by the mouth of Baruch. So we're going to find out during this chapter today that the people were quite familiar with Jeremiah by this time, because he had already been well known, made himself known by pronouncing all the words unto Baruch, and Baruch actually standing up and reading this book several times, this little roll, or the roll that he had written by the mouth of Jeremiah. But today we're going to pick it up. We're going to be in the period of Zedekiah, and this would be after Jehoiakim had been carried off in fetters, and after now that Coniah had been carried away to Babylon as well. Verse 1. And Zedekiah, the son of Joshua, reigned as king instead of Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, whom Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, made king in the land of Judah. And this is who made him king. This is who appointed Zedekiah king. Zedekiah's real name was Mattaniah, and Nebuchadrezzar changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah is the just, my God's justice, and he is the son of what my God found. He was the king of Judah. And instead of Coniah, Coniah was the son of Jehoiakim. Coniah is that which God established, and Jehoiakim was that which God stood up. Those which God stood up, even that which God established. And Mattaniah was the brother of Jehoiakim. Zedekiah was also the son of Joshua. He was the brother of Jehoiakim. Verse 2. But neither he, nor his servants, nor the people of the land did hearken unto the words of the Lord, which he spoke by the prophet Jeremiah. And Jeremiah, that one whom God appointed, neither did the king of Zedekiah. He didn't listen, or none of them listened. Nobody had listened. The king wasn't listening, nor his servants, nor the people of the land did hearken to the words of the Lord. And the words of the Lord were simple at that time. The prophets were saying, turn and return to the law of God. Turn, because the God is punishing you. See, God is punishing you. The wickedness was all in society. Even a greater example then was the king of Babylon was physically coming in and taking over the land. But we know that in the end, this would be a spiritual captivity, even a captivity of understanding. 3. And Zedekiah the king sent Jehuel, the son of Shelemiah, and Zephaniah, the son of Maaseiah, the priest, to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Pray now unto the Lord our God for us. This is what happened. Zedekiah had sent Jehuel, and Jehuel is God is able. And we remember the last time we heard God was able, God was getting ready to make something. He was getting ready to build something. Because, see, God knows how to build. God knows how to create. God knows how to do these things, and he's going to show you. And Zephaniah and Jehuel is the son of Shelemiah. And we remember Shelemiah, he has several sons, and Shelemiah is this rightful recompense that God renders. God has repaid God's just reward. And Zephaniah is that hidden treasure of God. He's the son of Maaseiah, and Maaseiah is my God's refuge. My God is refuge. Verse 4, Now Jeremiah came in and went out among the people, for they had not put him in prison. And this was during a period of time when Jeremiah was free to go. He was going in and out. He wasn't in jail. He was prophesying. 5, And Pharaoh's army came forth out of Egypt, and when the Chaldeans that besieged Jerusalem heard tidings of them, they broke up from Jerusalem. And this was during that little period of time there when the armies of the Chaldeans, or armies of Babylon, had withdrew a little bit, and Zedekiah was boasting himself. And Pharaoh's armies here, Pharaoh is that great house, and all his armies came forth up out of Egypt, that land of enclosures. And the Chaldeans, those clod breakers, once again, those supposed to be the wisest of the land, and they're the ones that had besieged Jerusalem, that place of peaceful teachings. See, when they heard that the armies of Egypt were coming up, they broke up their armies and left for a little while, but they wouldn't stay gone. Jeremiah said, They're coming back. 6. Then came the word of the Lord unto the prophet Jeremiah, saying, 7. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Thus shalt you say to the king of Judah, that sent you unto me to inquire of me, Behold, Pharaoh's army, which is come forth to help you, shall return to Egypt and to their own land. Thus did say the Lord, thus said the Lord, the God of Israel. he told Jeremiah, he said, say to the king of Judah that sent you unto me to inquire of me. Go send the one that sent you here to ask of me, the one who didn't ask for himself. Behold, Pharaoh's army, which is come forth to help you, shall return to Egypt in their own land. And that was the great house's army, these ones that had come up out of the land of enclosure to help Jerusalem, but it would be to no avail. And why didn't Zedekiah ask God himself? Well, Zedekiah probably didn't even know who God was. 8. And the Chaldeans shall return and fight against this city, and they shall take it and burn it with fire. And that's what was going to happen. See, God had done said the Babylonians and the Chaldeans are going to take this city. Why? Because they had turned from the law of God. See, they had violated, they had trespassed, and God was punishing. 9. Thus saith the Lord, deceive not yourselves, saying, the Chaldeans shall surely depart from us, for they shall not depart. Jeremiah is basically saying, don't lie to yourselves thinking the Chaldeans are going to leave here, because they're not. 10. For though you had smitten the whole army of the Chaldeans that fight against you, and there remained but wounded men among them, yet would they rise up, every man in his tent, and burn this city with fire. They're going to destroy this place. If you beat the whole army down, he said, and there wasn't nothing but a few wounded men left, they would rise up, and burn this city with fire. This city, this place of peaceful teachings. Because it's going to happen. It did happen. 11. And it came to pass that when the army of the Chaldeans was broken up from Jerusalem for fear of Pharaoh's army, because they left, and everybody thought, and Zedekiah and all of them got the big head, they started blowing up, thinking they had done something. See, that they was going to turn this thing around. And this was when Zedekiah was rebelling against the king of Babylon. 12. Then Jeremiah went forth out of Jerusalem to go into the land of Benjamin to receive his portion there in the midst of the people. Because, see, this is where Jeremiah was from. He was from that land of Benjamin. He was from Anathoth. And Anathoth is the place of answers. And Benjamin, that son of my right, see, that even the work of my hand, to receive his portion there. And, of course, this portion would be his food. The armies were all around the area. All the armies of Babylon would come, and everybody was down to get rations. Everybody was eating a ration, and Jeremiah was from there, and there he went to get his rations. 13. And when he was in the gate of Benjamin, a captain of the ward was there, whose name was Uriah, the son of Shelemiah, the son of Hananiah, and he laid hold on Jeremiah the prophet, saying, you followest away to the Chaldeans. So when Jeremiah had come now to the gate to go out, to leave, there was a captain there, this captain of the ward, and this ward were the overseers. These overseers the king had appointed to watch over, and what they were basically just like the law enforcement of that period of time is what they were. So to speak, they enforced the king's laws. They didn't enforce the law of God. 13. And when he was in the gate of Benjamin, and he's the son, his name is Uriah, and Uriah is this one who's seen of God. God's seen him, and he's the son of Shelemiah, and Shelemiah, we remember him, God has repaid. He's the rightful recompense of God. The son of Hananiah, he's the son of mercy. You see, it's Uriah, that which was seen of God, was born from. See, he's born out of this rightful recompense, and which is born out of the mercy of God, because God is merciful. See, God is very merciful, and this is how it all come about. Uriah said, you followest away to the Chaldeans. You're a traitor, is what he was calling Jeremiah. And 14, then said Jeremiah, it is false. I fall not away to the Chaldeans. But he hearkened not to him. So Uriah laid hold on Jeremiah and brought him to the princes. So Jeremiah tried to deny it. He said, it's false, and I don't fall away to the Chaldeans, these clod breakers. But Uriah wouldn't listen to him, and he took him to the princes. 15, and the princes were wroth with Jeremiah, and smote him, beat him, and put him in prison in the house of Jonathan the scribe, for they had made that the prison. So when they get him in front of the princes, these are the king's sons. These are all the rulers there, the ones who give all the orders when the king's not around. They didn't like what Jeremiah had done, what Uriah was telling them, so they took Jeremiah and they beat him, they smote him, they beat him, and put him into the prison house. They put him into this dungeon place, this cistern, and that's basically what it was, because, see, the armies were all about, and they had cleaned out all the cisterns to try to gather as much water to lay up siege for as long as they could. And this is where they put Jeremiah down in one of these cisterns, one of these places that would hold water that they had cleaned out, in the house of Jonathan. And Jonathan, the scribe, see this one, and we'll see that he had a mighty house. He had a house big enough to make a prison out of, and he was one of the scribes, or one of these that record the events, or keeps track of. For they had made it a prison house. 16, and Jonathan is God's gift. God's given. God has given. See, Jonathan. 16, and when Jeremiah was come into the dungeon house, and into cells, and Jeremiah had remained there many days. So now they took Jeremiah and took him down into the pit, this dungeon house, took him down into the cistern they cleaned out, and put him down in there in one of these little cells that would hold the water. And this cell here is something that's been blocked off. It's been made so something that can be stored up in there. And he was there for many days. And I guarantee you, while he was there, he was getting much understanding. Verse 17, then Zedekiah the king sent and fetched him. And the king asked him secretly in his house and said, is there any word from the Lord? And Jeremiah said, there is. He said also, you shall be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon. So Zedekiah now, after Jeremiah's been there a while, he's been down in the prison house, had time to think. Much understanding's coming to him. Zedekiah sent and fetched him up out of there, see if there's any word from God. And there was. God said, you shall be delivered into the king of Babylon, this king of confusion even. 18, moreover, Jeremiah said unto King Zedekiah, wherein have I sinned against you, or against your servants, or against this people, that you have put me in prison? So Jeremiah wants to know, and he asks Zedekiah, just what have I done that you put me into this prison house? Just how have I sinned against you, or your servants, or the people? What have I done? 19, where now are your prophets that prophesied unto you, saying, the king of Babylon shall not come against you, nor against this land? Jeremiah wants to know, because, see, they've done had this out where the false prophets were saying, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. We're going to save this place. The God's going to save it. He's not going to punish it. But where are all the prophets now, Jeremiah wants to know, since the city's been under siege for many days, and you cleaned all these cisterns out, and you're gathering up all this water and storing up bread. See, sending everybody out of the land real quick to get their portion somewhere else, while the Chaldeans are pulled out, try to get some supplies into the city so you can make ready for a siege. 20, and now here I pray you, O my lord the king, let my supplication, I pray you, be presented before you, that you cause me not to return to the house of Jonathan, the scribe, lest I die there. So Jeremiah just simply asked the king, don't send me back to that pit, lest I die there. And this supplication is let me ask you a favor. Let me ask you a favor. So Jeremiah is telling him, you're going to get carried off to Babylon, but let me ask a favor of you. 21. Then Zedekiah the king commanded, and they committed Jeremiah into the court of the guard, and they gave him daily a loaf of bread out of the baker's street, until all the bread in the city was spent. Thus Jeremiah remained in the court of the guard. And it was pretty much from then on, Jeremiah was pretty much stuck there in the prison house. Zedekiah, the king, this one of justice, got my God's justice, the one, my God's judgment even. And he commanded that Jeremiah, the one whom God had sent, be delivered into the court of the guard. And that's this little open area there where they could watch over, the overseers would. And they gave him there a daily loaf of bread or sustenance that he might live until all the bread was gone. And we're going to find out. See, that's exactly what happens, because when the Chaldeans come back after this little episode that Zedekiah has hired the armies of Egypt to come up and help him. See, after that, Zedekiah is done with this, we're going to find now the king of Babylon and all his armies are going to come down and besiege this city. And they're going to do just what Jeremiah, the one whom the Lord had sent to prophesy these words, is going to take place. Why? Because they did not hearken. See, but they still did not hearken unto the Lord, saying, turn and return. Let's move on to chapter 38.